Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Catherine?
I'm so good. Thanks for doing this.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, good. Yeah. So where are you recording from?
I am recording from Des Moines, Iowa.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is everyone there? Or are you guys everywhere?
We're mostly here in Des Moines. We do have a few people that are like a couple hours away in Iowa, but our entire staff is based in the state of Iowa.
Oh, that's cool. Are you in an office or do you have is it remote pretty much?
Yeah, so we do have an office space, and we have a hybrid work life, I guess. So we can work in the office 1 or 2 days a week and then at home the rest of the week. So
That's cool. And you're communications manager, right?
yes, I'm
What
the
it
communications manager for Healthy Birthday and Count the Cakes.
and what's that like?
It's great. It's the best job. I get to share all of the amazing work and happy stories of babies that are here safely because of the program and help reach more expectant parents and more providers with this important information. So
Yeah, I'm stoked to have you on. I don't know what's taken so long. I'm just getting my act together. But this is a massive tool for me right now, going through pregnancy after loss the second time. I think that this is like such a massive tool and a resource for us. Um, because, unfortunately, so many of us who do suffer stillbirths or us, term stillbirth, whatever it may be, a lot of us did find out because of lack of movement. That was my personal story. Oh my God. So I hit I think it was like 36, maybe I can't remember what week it was. And I was like, oh man, he's being a little quiet this morning. And I was following a certain app that shall remain nameless, and it popped up and was like, congratulations, you're such and such weeks. Baby's running out of room. So you're going to feel rolls instead of punches and kicks. And I was like, oh, okay, then everything's fine. And I asked everybody, like, hey, he feels different. Like, what's that? People, I mean, friends, family, even the doctors I saw that day, they were like, there's no more space. So the movements are going to change. And he was gone like a day or two later. And it was just like, oh my God. And this was 2022. This was 2 years ago. So now I'm starting to see the Count the Kicks logo in some offices that I'm going to, which is like, I love that. And I love that it's bright yellow too, because it definitely catches your freaking eye. You're like, what is that? So spreading this information is so massive. How long has it been around, actually? I guess I'm not familiar with that.
yeah, so Count the Kicks is our stillbirth prevention program. Healthy Birthday Inc. is our nonprofit organization.
Okay.
So Count the Kicks actually kind of started before Healthy Birthday. We were founded out of loss. So our five founders, all Central Iowa women who lost daughters to stillbirth or infant death in the early 2000s. They were connected with each other through their faith communities and friends and kind of came together just to support each other in their grief journey and really
Mhm.
bonded with each other. And eventually their conversation turned to this happened to all of us. And we were told
Mhm.
that it's rare. We were told it doesn't happen very often anymore. We thought stillbirth was a maternal health tragedy of the past. And so they really decided to channel their grief into efforts to prevent this from happening to other people.
Mhm.
And they learned about some research out of Norway that showed a 30% reduction in stillbirth when expectant moms were educated on getting to know their baby's normal movement patterns in the third trimester and speaking up if they noticed a change. And so they said, hey, we can do this here. We can bring this to the US. We can create a bright, positive, empowering mom focused campaign that teaches moms this information, gives them the tools and resources to get to know their baby's movements and empowers them to speak up. So Count the
Mm.
Kicks started in 2008. Our nonprofit began in 2009.
Okay. So for you listening, and I love that you just said empower. For you listening, it is an app. on your phone, and it's super easy to use. You literally pull up a clock and it says start counting. And it times the kicks, and you tap every time you feel a kick, a punch, something significant, not a hiccup, by the way. Um, and what it actually does is gives you an idea of what is the typical behavior of your baby. Like, I know for a fact, if I lay in bed hinged back at 11 p.m., I'm going to get an insane amount of action in a matter of 30 seconds. Like, I know that. Like, he is active, active, active. If I do this at 8:30 in the morning, it takes a little bit longer. I just know that that's his personality. So what it does is it tracks it, you guys, so that you could go back and be like, this is what he's been trending. This is changing now. I need to probably bring this up to my doctors, or I need to go to labor and delivery. Um, because I do know that when I was having my first baby who died, Brody died, but my first time, they did say count kicks. You need to get 10 kicks in about 5 hours, is what they were kind of saying. And I was like, okay. And he would always hit his kick count, always hit 10. But I do remember those last couple days, they were slower and they were not as powerful. It breaks my heart, but I didn't know that I should be looking at the intensity and the frequency and just the personality of him. He used to do Cirque du Soleil tricks at night, and the night that he didn't, the next morning he was gone. And so that was just kind of like, I didn't know that it was the personality. So this app is great. You could store all that information. It's free to use. And I like that you said it empowers you, because I think bringing that in, and correct me if this is not what you meant, but bringing it into the doctor and saying, this is how he's been acting, and this is how he's acting now. It doesn't look right, doesn't feel right. And having an actual something to show them might be extremely helpful in getting their attention, right?
Absolutely. Yes, it is like we like to say it's like having a data download for your motherly intuition.
Mm,
Like, you knew with Brody that his movement has changed, that something was off, but you like this really helps quantify that change, that movement. You
quantify,
can bring it
yeah.
in and say, like, look at this chart. Every
Hmm.
day my baby is moving 10 times in 10 minutes. And today it's been
Hmm.
45 or
Mm,
60. Like, that is not my baby's normal. And
hmm.
it really gives you that data to show your provider and back up what you're feeling, that
Love
something
that.
is off.
It's scary. People, a lot of moms don't want to confront, and demand and say, hey, something's off. And I know that I used this technique after Brody died, but I didn't trust my intuition. I didn't trust my instincts because I knew something was up, but I didn't follow them. And now I'm like, do I know something's up? Am I being paranoid in my pregnancy after loss? So I think having the actual tool to physically tap and count has been extremely helpful for my crazy grief pregnant brain. And then I can go back and be like, okay, I was right. This is what he did. I'm not making this up. So it's definitely helpful to have concrete evidence of what's going on with the baby. Um, so how did you get involved with the organization?
Yeah, so I've been with the organization for about 4.5 years now. My background is in journalism and
Hmm.
marketing, and I think I was drawn to communications and journalism just because I've always loved information and being
Hmm.
able to like share things, and I think I always wanted to be able to help people in some way through sharing of information, education, kind of that knowledge is power mindset.
Hmm.
And somewhere along the way, I had my kiddos. I have a 10-year-old now and a 7-year-old. And I think just the experience of how much I didn't know that I didn't know,
Hmm.
in having my kids, and especially after they were born, I just became really passionate about supporting other expectant parents, supporting other moms, really helping to kind of share the wealth of knowledge that I had learned through my own personal experience. And then I saw this communications job open at Count the Kicks, and I had been familiar with Count the Kicks during both of my pregnancies. Like you're seeing
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
Georgia, like, we've got the posters on the wall at the doctor's office, the bright yellow materials and the brochures. And so I was familiar with it during my pregnancies, and, paid attention to my baby's movements and counted
Hmm.
and all of that. But I think just this position seemed like a great opportunity and a fit my background in communications, but also my passion for helping to educate other expectant parents and really share this information. And since starting, I think it just blows my mind all the things I didn't know about stillbirth before
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
started, and um, just incredibly passionate about this cause and this mission and the need for all expectant parents to be equipped with this information so that we can help more moms and more babies have healthy birth outcomes.
Yeah, it's kind of wild to talk to moms that I'm super close with that have not experienced stillbirth or death. And they've had 3+ pregnancies, and they're just kind of like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Kicks? What do you mean? I'm like, oh well, lucky you, that you didn't have to do that. Um, and the kind of outdated mentality or information that's out there, have you found it challenging to get providers to listen to you?
I Yeah, yes, absolutely. I think it's challenging to get providers to listen. It's challenging to get expectant parents to listen sometimes. I
Mm,
think we all most people don't know what stillbirth is still.
so
Like
true.
you've said so many times, like people don't talk about it. They don't know what it is. They get it confused with other things like SIDS or
Mhm.
um, other issues. And just the amount of awareness that needs to be raised to even begin to address the issue and how common it is and how often it's happening, and those populations that are more likely to experience stillbirth. I think there's just a huge I guess work to do to
Yeah.
reach everyone and make this really common. We all
Mhm.
know you take a prenatal vitamin during pregnancy. You bring your baby home in an infant car seat. You put your baby to sleep on their back in the crib with no blankets and pillows. Like
Mhm.
this, counting kicks in the third trimester, knowing your baby's normal, speaking up about a change in your baby's movement should be as common as all of that.
Mhm. Amen. Yeah. I think sometimes what I've found and what I've actually heard from professionals in the space who kind of, I mean, their expertise is elsewhere. Maybe it's placenta or cord or whatever it is, but saying that, and even the moms sometimes have said this, that to recognize that we should be counting kicks would almost admit that we have made a mistake in the past. And that has been a big hurdle, especially for some moms. When we say words like preventable stillbirth, they're like, what do you mean preventable? Does that mean I could have saved my baby? And that's a really hard pill to swallow, especially in the very beginning after loss. Um, but then empowering you in next pregnancies, I think it's been really helpful. And I think some providers are a little bit hesitant to embrace this kind of concept because then again, that would admit maybe fault in the past. So I know that's probably a hurdle because I've seen that with, measuring the placenta or checking the cord or whatever it may be. So have there been providers that are just really unwilling to feature the poster or push it? Or I've actually heard some providers say counting doesn't matter. That's not a thing, which is kind of wild to me. But I'm not a doctor, but what have you found there?
I mean, there's definitely some providers out there that say there isn't enough evidence to support kit counting,
Hmm.
that the research just isn't there, but the research is there. It
Is
shows
there?
that
Yeah.
at least 1 in 4 stillbirths are preventable. The Norway research that our Count the Kicks program was founded on, based on, is showed a 30% reduction. Here in the state of Iowa, in the first 10 years of the program, which would be 2008 to 2018, the state of Iowa saw a 32% reduction in the rate of
Wow.
stillbirth. And
Wow.
we had some research published in the British Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology that kind of looked at that and compared Iowa to surrounding states that did not have the Count the Kicks program during that time period. And it showed that, the other states did not see a similar reduction in stillbirth during that time, and that there was really nothing else going on in Iowa to
Mm.
account for this reduction in stillbirth. So One of the things we're continuing to work on is just adding to that evidence base and making sure that there's additional information and education and research on stillbirth prevention, and specifically on the count the kicks method of, timing how long it takes your baby to get to 10, knowing what's normal for your baby, because every baby and every pregnancy are different. And then
Yes, they
speaking up
are.
if you notice a change.
Yeah, even erratic, like even super quick, super fast, I had that happen the other day and I was like, yo, he was like wild. And the doctor was like, I need you to put that in medical terms. I have no idea what you're talking about. I was like, oh, Jesus. Okay. So he was quick. He was fast. He was all over the place. It was very abnormal. And he just like looked at me and was like, that's a sign of a happy baby. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't think that's right. Like, so I like that you guys have evidence based, research based, factually based, so that when somebody, even a provider, looks at you and says that's not a thing, you can just slide that research and that study on over and say it actually is a thing. And unfortunately, there are so many of us who are out here researching and reading and asking questions and Googling and searching. Like you guys are doing research and you're finding the research that's out there and providing it for us. And a lot of times providers aren't doing that. They're sticking to what they've been doing for decades, and they're just really unaware. And I really do hope that this becomes more of a part of prenatal care. It needs to be an absolute topic of conversation. Um, what is the projected like goal and wish for Count the Kicks to what do you guys hope happens?
So we hope that this program is active and present in all 50 states. Right now, we partner with state health departments and managed care organizations to launch our program in additional states and make our materials, our printed educational materials, free for anyone in that state to order. So right now we're in about 30 states.
Mhm.
Our goal, of course, is to be in all 50 states. And we truly believe that if we could expand this program to all 50 states and realize the same reduction in stillbirths, that 32% that we saw in Iowa, we could save more than 6,000 babies every single year.
Wow. And to some people, so many people, that doesn't sound like a huge number. That is a massive number, even if it's just one, because the death and stillbirth of a baby is a life sentence for the parents. It is not something that is just, and I know you know this, but it's not something that is just, oh, try again, have another, whoops. And that's how it's treated. And it's so wild because you are different after that. So 6,000, I will take it, especially if that is one of the only preventative measures that's going on right now, and guess what? It's in the hands, our hands, it's in the mom's hands. That's insane to me. Like I could go on and on about how we like really need to fix some things here. But until we do, this is probably one of the best tools that as a mother we can use to kind of put in our toolbox to help us during our subsequent pregnancies. And even, I mean, I hope people listening to this maybe haven't had a loss, because I think everybody needs to hear it, especially those who never experienced a loss. Like maybe they just need to know this. And I'm sure you guys have tons of save stories. Save stories are hard for me. As much as I love them, they're hard. Because mine wasn't saved. And so it's challenging to hear that I didn't follow my gut and my instincts because I didn't know that was a thing. So that's been really tough. And I know that's been tough for a lot of my stillbirth mom friends. But yeah, so you guys have a ton of save stories that we could probably see on the app. I know you guys feature them on the app, right?
Yeah, we do feature them on the app, and they're also available on our website. So if you go to countthekicks.org, right there at the top, you click on baby saves, and there are a bunch of stories that you can read. But I think, yeah, we know that not all stillbirths are preventable, and definitely understand that this idea that someone's baby is here safely and yours is not can be really hard
Yeah, just guard
to
your hearts, y'all, if you're
yeah.
watching. Yeah, just be prepared. But it also is beautiful. It's wonderful, and you're so happy for them. Nobody wants anybody to go through this. It's horrific. Um, so I think that you guys are doing something that, I mean, the idea was one thing, and then the execution of it is another. And now it's taken this long to gain steam. I feel like finally it's like really coming up. And that's wild that it takes so long. And you guys are probably kicking down doors every day, right?
We sure are trying, yes.
You are, right? I mean, what does a day look like for you?
A day looks like for me, I mean, my job is to communicate all of the things that we're doing and all of the opportunities to get involved, but also just making sure that people are aware about our app and they're using it and providers are ordering our materials. So it's sending out emails, it's setting up ads, it's uh updating our messaging just to make sure we're aligning with the latest research in stillbirth prevention and the latest data on stillbirth in the US. And one of the great things I do get to help with is also collecting these stories, these success stories of families who knew about Count the Kicks, who were using the app or paying attention to their baby's movements on a paper chart or web counter or whatever method they were using, and
Mhm.
did notice a change, spoke up. Their providers listened, addressed the concerns, and the baby is here safely, partially
Amazing.
because of that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it also just helps us pay attention more, hey,
yeah.
everyone shut up. I gotta sit down and I gotta count. I do that. I'm like, hey, everyone calm down. I gotta sit down. I'm just gonna go count real quick. And that helped my sanity because I'm distracted. Like I have a 1-year old now running around and I'm doing a bunch of things myself. So then I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I have not been paying attention for like a few hours. I need to sit down. Oh, and that's what I like about the app. It gives me like a notification.
Mhm.
Hey, chick, time to count. So sit down. Like that, it does say that, like it's time. And you could set that for any day I mean, any time of the day, which is super helpful for our brains.
Yeah.
Grief brain and pregnancy brain are all over the place.
Yes.
Um, but you also work with Healthy Birthday. And
Yes.
can you give me some background on that?
Sure. So Healthy Birthday is our nonprofit organization. Really, we're the creator of the Count the Kicks program, but also focus more systemically on systemic change to just shine a light on the impact of stillbirth in the US and to ensure that that we're taking steps to change the trajectory of this and really to truly make stillbirth a maternal health tragedy of the past. So one of the things that we've been working on over the past couple of years is a piece of legislation called the Maternal and Child Health Stillbirth Prevention Act. And that recently passed Congress and was signed by President Biden on July 12th. So, an incredible monumental moment for stillbirth prevention. It's really a technical fix to the language of Title V of the Social Security Act to add the words stillbirth and stillbirth prevention. So this is a piece of legislation that was created in 1935. It's the largest maternal and child health funding mechanism in the US, and states get grants from this Title V to address maternal and child health issues. And within that, there's a big list of things that states should spend this money on, like smoking cessation in pregnancy and maternal mortality and morbidity
Mm.
and SIDS and things like that. And one thing that was not included, one thing that was overlooked, like we all know it is stillbirth. And so we worked with Congress to help draft this legislation and to make sure that this language of Title V could be updated to include stillbirth and stillbirth prevention. And it's really just a signal, a call to action for state health departments, states who receive this funding to take a portion of that funding and use it to invest in and focus on stillbirth prevention efforts.
So the word stillbirth was not in there.
The
The thing
world,
of
the word stillbirth was not in there, was
Why do
not
you
included.
think? Why do you think?
I think at the time there was a mindset that stillbirth was not preventable, that it was
Mm,
like
mm.
we heard, just a thing that happens. And I think there's more research now to prove that it is preventable, that there are things that can be done to keep this from happening, and ways to kind of identify that there might be issues in a pregnancy, and a change in movement is one of those things.
What a time. I can't believe I'm having conversation in my lifetime that is saying that we do SIDS prevention, we do prevention for so many things, we do all these precautions. And only till recently, maybe even with the signing of this legislation, that we are admitting that stillbirth 1 in 4 is potentially preventable, meaning we're paying attention to signs, we're acting as much as we possibly can to prevent the stillbirth. I mean, I think you're actually really right. And I think the mentality is there's nothing you could do to prevent it. I mean, I'm kind of having those conversations right now with the best of the best perinatal consults. And like, I'm like, you guys do know I'm trying to prevent this from happening again, but it doesn't feel like that's what they're doing. It feels like they're just waiting to find something and be like, oh, now we have an emergency. And it's like, we could have probably been paying more attention to preventing this from happening again. Um, and it's a little bit wild to me. So I think we've got a huge movement going on right now. And I can't believe I'm sitting here watching it happen in 2024 to admit that stillbirth means something's wrong. Like something is up. And it's not just the body saying, oh, this isn't a viable pregnancy, or no, this is something goes completely wrong when it's at a certain point. And to admit that and say, this is a thing and stop overlooking it has, oh my gosh, like that's insane. That's huge. You guys should be so, I know you're so proud of yourselves. It's massive. It's massive. So then what are you going to tackle next? I mean, there's probably so much like, okay, cool, but now we got to do some more, right?
Yes, absolutely. So you're right. This is the first time Congress has ever taken action to address stillbirth specifically. And now that this is there, now that this language exists to tell states that they can and should address this through this funding, we need to reach states
Yeah,
and
how do
let
we
them
do
know.
that?
I mean, the same way that we got this bill passed, like thousands of advocates, people who believe in stillbirth prevention, lost families across the country, reached out to Congress over the last 2 years and said, please support this legislation. I believe in this. It matters to me. I'm doing this in honor of my loved and missed baby. And I think we reach state health departments the same way. We tell them that this funding exists, that there are solutions to help prevent stillbirths now.
Mm-hmm.
And just reach if you know anyone in your state health department, your county health department, we can all reach out to them and say, hey, this happened to me, but there are solutions that can be implemented to prevent this, and I'd like to have a conversation with you about it.
Yeah, and we did this for a different one. There was a different piece of legislation that was going out a couple of years ago. And I remember like being kind of nervous, like, what am I going to say? Just tell your story. Tell your story and why you think this is important. Get other people to tell this story as well. You know, it doesn't always have to be you if you don't feel like you're strong enough or ready to say the words out loud. But and you might, and here's the thing, you may be like, oh, this is silly, oh, this is dumb. I would say a lot of politicians don't even know anything about this. They're in the camp of not knowing what a stillbirth is, and sometimes when we say we had a term stillbirth, we're met with, oh, my neighbor had like 6 of those. And it's like, well, bless your poor neighbor, oh my God. But also, that's not it, the same thing. Like, that's not it. And people don't realize what it is. So we have to educate on what actually the facts, medical terms, whatever it may be, on what stillbirth is. And then, like you said, the prevention part, like what we can possibly do to make a difference here and how many families are affected. I think just educating too is really important. People don't know, especially people who are in powerful decision making positions. They just may not know what to do. And even if you try once, probably not going to get a response. Try again, try again, try again, try again. And there's power in numbers. So rally up your friends. And I think doing things like that really gets the attention. I remember we sat on a call. It was like a Zoom, and there was like maybe 12 of us on it. And this representative was on it, or maybe the assistant was on it. And her face after we were done telling like our stories and our experiences was like, her eyes were this big around. She was like, I don't even understand what I'm hearing right now. I can't believe this happened. And it was wild to see her realize this is a problem right there on the Zoom call. I'm sure you have lots of those conversations.
Yes, and I think you're exactly right that it is this power of storytelling, and it's terrible that you have these stories to tell, but they are so powerful and they matter and they make an impact, and it is absolutely this sharing of personal experiences and families impacted by
Mm.
stillbirth that helped push this legislation over in Congress, help get it signed and passed. And I think our CEO, Emily, who traveled to DC to meet with members of Congress and advocate for the legislation, I think she said, you know, it was in the moments when we started to hear the stories from staff members of Congress or members of Congress who said, I lost a baby 40 years ago and I've never talked about it, or
Mm.
my sister lost a baby. And when those stories started to come out, like stillbirth affects everyone. 1 in 175 pregnancies. We all know 175 pregnant women at some point in our life. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it does not discriminate for race or socioeconomic status or, you know, where you live or any of those things. Like it can happen to anyone, even in healthy, low risk pregnancies. So it truly is an issue that everyone should care about and can get behind, you know, helping to raise awareness and implement solutions to prevent it.
And you guys are doing so much good. I mean, you personally are doing so much good and you articulate your words so well. So I feel like that is such an important quality to have in this space because it's kind of, while it's a very bright and joyful space because you're educating and you're saving, it can be a dark space. Have you found that's been tough on the day to day to kind of deal with sometimes?
Oh, definitely. I
Mm.
mean, I'm definitely impacted by the stories that I've heard. And I think that for me, that just fuels my
Mm.
passion for preventing it. Cause I can see, you know, I can see the families impacted. I hear the stories and I I can only imagine that pain,
Mm-hmm.
having not personally experienced it. And so I truly just want to do everything I can. And as an organization, every member of our team, we're just working hard every day to reach as many expectant parents and providers and health departments as we can so that truly we can someday make this a maternal health tragedy of the past.
Do you think that's possible?
I hope so. I mean, again, not all of them are preventable. There are
Yeah,
things
yeah.
that can happen that just, you know, happen
Horrific.
quickly and no one has
Hmm.
control over. But I definitely think we can make a huge impact in reducing the number of stillbirths that are happening every year in the US.
That's massive. I mean, you talk all day. Do you have a hard time shutting it off at night? Is it something that you just continuously think about and look at?
Yes. I mean,
Mm.
I can't see a pregnant woman at the grocery store or the pool or, you
Do
know,
you
like
go up to her and say, "Do you need this?"
yes,
You do?
yes.
Oh my God,
I
tell
was like,
me, tell me,
have
what do you
you
do?
I mean, I kind of, you know, I try to get to know them a little first, but then let, you know, have you heard about Count the Kicks? Are you counting your baby's kicks? You know, did you know that there's a free pregnancy app? I definitely approach the topic as often as I can, as much as I can. If people have concerns, I am the person that's like, let's go in and get checked. You know, like we can all play a role in educating and empowering, and you can order app reminder cards from our website and carry them in your purse and hand them out to random expectant parents at the grocery store. You know, like
That's awesome.
we can all help prevent stillbirths, and it doesn't take a lot of time and it's easy to do.
Okay, so when you go up to someone, okay, so what are the odds of them actually already knowing about Count the Kicks?
Well, it depends on where you are. In the state of Iowa, Count the Kicks has fantastic name recognition. Most people have at least heard about Count the Kicks. They may not know all of the details of it or what it does or why it is, but it definitely has some name recognition here. I think that's something that we need to work towards on a broader level. Um, but yeah, I think it just kind of depends on
Okay.
who it is and where it is. But
Okay, how many say they are already counting kicks? They've never heard of count kicks, but they are counting kicks. And of those, how many of them are like wrong in how they do it?
oh, I mean, there's so many myths out there. You heard so many of them, like
Yeah.
when you at the end of Brody's pregnancy, babies do not slow down, they do not run out of room. their movements change. They are bigger, more jabs, fewer rolls, but they're going to move up to and during labor. They should still move about this, 10 times in about the same amount of time. Let's see, eating something sugary or drinking ice water to get them to move, like that's not the best practice. That's not recommended.
That I reposted. Wait, do you do the social? Wait, that's not you. Is that
No,
you?
I don't do
Oh,
it. It's not me anymore.
okay. Well, I reposted hey, did you know you're not supposed to eat something sugary or drink something cold? The amount of people that responded to my repost on that was like, wait, what? Like, I still I'm using Count the Kicks. I'm doing all the things. I'm educated, but they still say things like, I'll drink a little ice cold water to see if I can like wake him up. And they're like, what? Oh no, I've been doing it wrong. I'm like, oh, it's okay. Don't panic. Don't panic. So that's a really interesting piece of advice.
I mean,
Because that's all they tell us is go drink
yeah.
something sugary to this day. They tell us that.
Well, and just think about like when you don't feel good,
Yeah.
your movement changes. You want to
Yeah.
lay down on the couch, you want to stay in bed. If you drink a soda, you might have a small burst of energy, but it's not fixing what's actually wrong with you. It isn't going to make you feel better. It might help you move around for a little bit, do what you need to do, but it isn't going to solve, the reason that you actually aren't feeling well. So,
Oh my God. And if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, they told me to do that. I listened, my baby's gone. Everybody was told to do that. I am still told to do that. I went in for an NST 2 weeks ago because I was like, dude is not doing what he normally does. On the phone, they said, did you try drinking something sugary? And I was like, that doesn't work, right? And they were like, what? I'm like, okay, that's for another day. But we are all told that. So the guilt you feel is real. The blame you feel is so real. I to this day blame myself because I remember the minute that I was like, something's wrong. I remember where I was sitting. I remember all of it. And when I called and when I asked, and everyone said this, y'all, it's not your fault. And I don't want anyone to, you're gonna blame yourself. But we were all told that. So don't feel bad if that's what you did. The point is that if you find your baby is not behaving like his or her normal self, you just go to labor and delivery. You don't even call the office. I mean, call the office and be like, hey, I'm going to labor and delivery so they could call ahead. That's really helpful. But you're going to get it on the phone. Did you drink something sugary? Did you lay on one side? Did you drink something cold? And next thing you know, you've wasted an hour. So that's just how I've been like, my goal is to like, if I feel like he's not moving over the course of, let's see, I think my doctor said 10 moves every 2 hours. And if you find that that's not really happening, you need to go. You need to go to the hospital. So that's kind of where I'm at now. But it does change. And I will say this, and I don't know if you could provide some insight on this. The gestational week changes the movement a little bit too. I will say, when he hit 32, it was like clockwork. I was like, I know what is happening. I tried to count before that and he was freaking me out. So what is your insight on that?
yeah,
I said a lot there.
I want to come back to
Yes.
the advice for sugary drinks. I think I know we hear this too. We know so many people, there's so many myths out there, and they come from everything and everyone, including providers' offices sometimes. So one of the things that we do, we don't just educate expectant parents. We have webinars, we have trainings, we work with doulas
I
and
love
community
that.
health organizations, and we have webinars that OBGYNs and midwives can get on, and labor and delivery nurses. Like, we're really working not just to educate expectant parents on this, but to dispel some of those myths and encourage best practices related to education on kit counting among the healthcare community, so that we can begin to have better information and advice out there, so that when people have concerns, that they are addressed in the best possible way. And I forgot the other question. I'm so
Gestation,
sorry.
gestational age.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
Oh, no, I talk in run-on sentences. I'm aware. Sorry. I'm surprised I still have a podcast.
uh, so, so yes, like the reason that it's recommended to begin counting at 26 to 28 weeks is because that's the start of the third trimester. And the research shows that that's around the time that your baby will get into more of a recognizable pattern. So of course, again, every baby and every pregnancy are different, so that your baby could take a little longer or you could notice it a little sooner. Um, there are things that it can impact what you're feeling, like an interior placenta, that might
Mm-hmm.
delay you feeling those movement patterns by, a little bit longer, like a week or 10 days, but it's still possible to feel them, still become familiar with them. And there is, I guess the research does show there's kind of a time frame where the baby's movement is more frequent leading up to like 32-ish weeks. And then again, it just kind of like settles in and becomes more of a consistent pattern after that.
Yeah. Okay. So
But we
that's all
do
helpful.
have an entire page on our website with evidence and research, kind of linking to all of these pieces of information. So
Yeah, I'm gonna
you
link
can,
those in the description because you said a lot of stuff that's research based and factually based, and I'm gonna make sure that everyone has that link. Any links that you have for people who want to get involved or you want to get, involved with Healthy Birthday as well. I think that would be really, really helpful for them to be able to. I mean, listen, when your baby's gone, we have to figure out how we want to parent them or continue their names. And I think for a lot of us, we go the prevention route, we go to the education and awareness route. I'm still lingering in the bereavement route because I'm still in childbearing mode and the prevention talk gets too much for me sometimes. But that's just me. And that's where I'm at right now. And that will absolutely change when I get out of this PAL space. But I think that for a lot of people wanting to get involved is their way of parenting their baby that's gone by helping other people. So I really love that you have that as a resource for them to use as an outlet to pour their pain into and to help other people. So this does end up stopping eventually one day. Is there anything that we did not talk about that you want to add?
I think we've covered a lot of it. I think, just in getting ready to come on here today, I think something you said in your own story, was that it's a miracle that babies get here safely, and it has everything to do with luck, timing, and science. Um, and
I
I
did say
think
that.
that really stuck with me. And I think that since I started this job is absolutely what I've realized, is that I have two healthy boys that arrived safely, and I was lucky. Like I knew enough, and I hope that what I knew would have been enough to get them here safely if I really had a concern, if there really was a problem. But moms, expectant parents, shouldn't have to be lucky to have a healthy baby and a healthy pregnancy. And so Count the Kicks is just one tool that can hopefully help more families get their babies here safely. And I
Yeah.
hope that, you know, uh, just find ways to share it, learn more about it if you believe in it.
That's really special that you mentioned that. I think what you're doing is incredible. And I appreciate so much you coming on and sharing your insight and telling us more about Count the Kicks. I think that even if one person hears this on this crazy podcast, that it'll be really helpful.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I think that's kind of where we started too. It's just if we could help one family, save one
Mhm.
baby, it would be worth it. And we've definitely been able to do that and hope to be able to do much more. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for the opportunity, and really grateful to be able to share more with your total loss podcast listeners.
Yeah, they crazy. They listen to me. So I love the idea of the cards. So I'm gonna get a link for that as well,
Yeah.
because I'll just fling those out and make it rain. That's hilarious. I think that's great. And even if you just like leave it somewhere, like I'm just gonna
Yeah,
put
like,
that right there at the Starbucks counter, you
yeah,
know?
children's museum,
Yeah, that's
wherever you
great.
go.
Fertility clinics. Here you go. Just make it right. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. Again, okay, cool. So I'm gonna link everything that we mentioned and maybe even some more, guys. So check the description of the podcast wherever you're listening. Kimberly, you're the best. Thank you. Please keep in touch. Let me know if there's anything else that I can do to help, just to help support and get things out there. If you guys ever need anything else, you know where to find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Catherine.
All right, girl. Talk soon. Have a great day.